My name is Jenny. I'm the ugly girl in the class. And if someone thinks that I'm exaggerating, that I'm making a mistake, then they're wrong. My face is completely disfigured. It is covered with scars, and these painful memories will remain with me forever. But now I will tell you all about it, about how I became the winner of a beauty contest against all odds. Look who's here! Jenny, Jenny, Jenny. Come on, honey. How can hair hide such a squalor? It's just that you are unlucky in life. Nora and her guards, get to your places now. Do not sit on the tables, said the teacher. This girl, Nora, is my classmate. She's beautiful, rich, and loves to bully people like me. I didn't always look like this. I was born normal, but just a few years ago, there was a tragedy. Our house caught on fire, my room was blocked, and I couldn't get out. The fire spread quickly from room to room, and I could have jumped down to the tree under the window, but I heard Molly, my little sister, screaming. As I reached her through the flames, my face got burnt. I received a large percentage of burns on my face and hands, and after a lot of time, effort, and money spent on rehabilitation, recovery, and cosmetics, I still look nothing like before. My friend Katie came up to me then. Hey Jen, can we go to lunch? Okay, come on, we'll just eat on the roof. All right, friend. I'm really sorry that Nora was bothering you again. Damn, if I'd been in that class, I wouldn't have kept my mouth shut. My fists have been itching to give her a good one for a long time. I laughed. Then it's a good thing you had another lesson. Thank you, I know you always stick up for me. But you know, today I really thought about it. I'm a freak. Who's going to look at me now? Nora is right after all. I'm not pretty, and I never will be. Hey, what are you doing? Katie said. First of all, who is she to tell you about your appearance? Secondly, anyone who knows how to do makeup is considered a fairy godmother. My sister has been a makeup artist for many years, and she won't let you lie. There are people much uglier than you, if it's any consolation, but after a trip to the beauty salon, everyone looks like a queen. I was still dubious. Are you saying I should try makeup? Why not? I've never worn makeup, and I don't think it's for me. I'm sorry, I don't want to be a freak with despair written all over my face. Katie took a bite of her sandwich and said, You're not looking for anything, mate. Nothing. Then Nora came in. Class, the traditional beauty contest is coming up very soon. You know who wins every year. Yes, it's me, but that's not the point. Now, I want to announce a couple of names. These girls will participate in the competition on behalf of our class. First on the list is me, then Nicole Ginger, one of Nora's friends, and ta-da, Jenny North. This is probably some kind of mistake. I can't, and I won't. I do not know who approved the lists. Apparently, someone entered you in the candidates several times. Maybe you did it yourself? Nora said very haughtily. No, I can't. You know the rules. Nora jeered. Anyone who refuses to participate will be suspended for 5 days. This will be reflected in your file when you go to college. Refusing to participate in the life of the school is not a very wise decision. The bell rang and everyone left the classroom. I ran to look for my friend Katie in the crowd. At this time, Nora and her friends went outside. Nora, you did this, didn't you? One of Nora's friends, Nicole, said. Did you enter Jenny's name? Why? Nora said innocently. Why would you do that? She is so complex, Nicole said. And why do you care? Just, isn't that too mean of you? What are you trying to do? Nicole cried. Listen up, Nikki. I love making fun of her, Nora replied. She's ugly, and I want her to feel that way as much as possible. Do you have something against it? Have you forgotten who you're friends with? Don't play with fire, okay? I didn't know who had entered my name or why. It was so absurd. I didn't want to be there, standing on the same stage as Nora. She hates me so much, and here's another reason to laugh at me. But I didn't want any trouble getting into college, so I figured I'd embarrass myself one more time. So what? My whole life is a disgrace. I'll never win this contest anyway. With these thoughts and attitudes, I began to prepare. Katie helped me, picked up outfits, helped me with a program, and how good that her sister was just a wonderful makeup artist. And when the day came, I appeared in front of the school in an incredibly chic black dress, light lace short gloves that hid the burns, and on my head was a small hat with a short veil. I was given such a makeover that I didn't even recognize myself, and when I saw my reflection in the mirror, I cried bitterly. Can I still be beautiful? I asked myself at the time. You're a beauty and you're going to win, Katie said. I'm so worried. Maybe I shouldn't have dressed up like this, I replied. You tell my sister that, Katie snorted. Did she do your makeup for 3 hours for nothing? Just try to bring her victory and now go. When it was my turn, I sat down across from the host and he asked me how I got the scar on my face. I had never told anyone the story. Only Katie knew about it. Suddenly, a lump rose in my throat, and I remembered the horror in my sister's eyes and my thoughts that I might lose her forever. I told everyone how it was. The host was silent. There was complete silence in the hall. Then he asked if I regretted it, because now my whole life is like this. Beauty is a relative concept, I said. Just yesterday I was hiding in the corridors, and now I'm participating in a beauty contest. I can't win it, I know, and I didn't mean to. And at that moment, I knew for sure that I had to save my little sister, whatever it took, I said, and everyone in the hall applauded. A few minutes later, the results of the voting were announced, the jury and the audience. The host came on stage, and after 2 agonizing minutes, he announced, Jenny. My mouth and eyes widened in surprise. It can't be. What? It can't be, Nora yelled. Katie hugged me and kissed me, and then kicked me out onto the stage. It was the happiest day of my life. I realized then that inner beauty also plays a big role. Without it, I definitely would not have won. Tell me guys, did you like my story? Write your opinion about it in the comments below the video. Do not forget to like it, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel.
Hello everyone, my name is Tom. At first you will think that my story is more like going to the movies, but unfortunately, this is a harsh reality, and I would like to share it with you. Since I can't tell anyone else about it, especially those who once knew me, I started life with a clean slate and there were good reasons for that. Now I will tell you more. From the very beginning, my life was hectic. The fact is that I grew up in terrible conditions. My father left my mother when he first found out that she was pregnant. My mother, Phoebe, was very worried about it, so she said, "We have no relatives. There was no one to help us." All we had was a small apartment that Phoebe inherited from her dead parents. Don't be surprised that I call her by her first name. It's just easier for me. My mother did not have a high sense of motherhood. I remember once, when I was 4 years old, she left for a few days somewhere, without even saying where. I was locked in the house alone, leaving no food or water. I had to eat what I found, toothpaste, something from the trash. I drank my own urine, and when on the 3rd day I was already completely exhausted on the kitchen floor, she arrived. I think if my mother and I hadn't happened to have a neighbor drop by that day, she wouldn't have done anything and left me on the floor. But our neighbor, Mrs. Friendly, is an old grandmother, and she took me to the hospital. My mother was only worried about being sent to prison, but somehow it all worked out. About a couple of weeks I lived with a neighbor, so I have not eaten so well yet. She fed me so well, washed me, put me to bed. Although Mrs. Friendly was old, she was adept at handling children. She lived alone, maybe that's why she paid all her attention only to me. My mother was jealous. Imagine, Even though she didn't take care of me, she was jealous of my grandmother, and when I got better, she took me home again. I remember the scandal. The neighbor did not want to give me away, scolded my mother for her behavior, but she did not want to hear criticism. She said that I was her son and she knew how to treat me, so she took me. My mother had taken another job, and now she was almost always gone. At this time, I ran to Mrs. Friend's to eat and sleep. We had a great time. I loved her probably more than my mother. Agree, whatever the mother was, the child still loves her, just a little less. Despite all the conditions, I grew up, and when it was time to go to school, my mother, of course, did not give me away. And then the whole nightmare started. Some men started coming to our house. They were unfamiliar to me. My mother usually made me sit in the hallway at this time. I could sit there for hours, and only then I began to run away to the neighbor. Phoebe didn't know we were still in touch, because I knew she was against it. I could spend half a day or half a night at Mrs. Friendly's without Phoebe noticing that I wasn't there, and then I would run to my seat when a man came out, and I would pretend to sit there all the time. The neighbor was shocked by what was happening, but could not do anything, and when I turned 14, I was determined to run away from home. I didn't know where to go, and I shared all my secrets with Mrs. Friendly. She begged me to stay with her, but I couldn't, because Phoebe would have found me. One day a neighbor talked to my mother, offered to take me away for upbringing, like she would take care of me, but my mother went berserk. I didn't understand why she needed me, because she was still indifferent to my existence, to which Mrs. Friendly replied that deep down in her heart, she probably hated herself for being such a mother, but she had buried herself too deep, and it was very difficult to get out. And I was only a small memory of a better life for her, for which there is no hope anymore. Then I definitely decided that it was time for me to leave. And then Mrs. Friendly came up with a clever idea. What if I changed my face? This would give me the opportunity to live with her, have a roof over my head, and most importantly, I would get what I wanted, care, and moreover, I would no longer have to hide from my mother. But how to do it? The operation was unthinkable because it was expensive and I needed my mother's permission. Besides, it's going to take a hell of a long time. Then we found a faster and more painless way: makeup. It was lucky that Mrs. Friendly had worked as a theater cleaner before, and she had good friends with makeup artists from there. In just an hour, they made a different person out of me. I changed my style of dress, put lenses in my eyes, tried to walk a different gait. I had my hair dyed a different color, but most importantly, with the help of cosmetics, I had a different face. I didn't recognize myself when I looked in the mirror, and I was very happy. Mrs. Friendly spread the news that her granddaughter was visiting her indefinitely while her daughter was abroad. Everyone believed her, because they knew that she really had a grown-up daughter, and I stupidly packed up and left, leaving a note for my mother not to look for me. I wrote that I left in search of a better life, without her. I was not sorry, especially since I had the opportunity to observe her life out of the corner of my eye. At first, she excited the neighbors, asked her for help to raise money to arrange a search, but the initiative lasted about 2 hours, after which another man came to her and she closed the apartment door. And I was relieved to be at Mrs. Friendly's, to have a new home, a family, and a quiet life. I helped Mrs. Friendly do the housework, cooked the food, she taught me that, cleaned up. And then they gave me documents in a different name and I finally went to school. I was very late in my years, but it didn't bother me. Better late than never. Mrs. Friendly got a good pension, benefits for the bills, and when I was on vacation, I worked part-time in a cafe, then at a car wash. This money was enough for us to live. It took about 1.5 months and I came home from school. On the way up in the elevator, my mother came to see me. Wearily, she named the floor and then greeted me. "I know you. You're Mrs. Friendly's grandson, right?" she asked. I just nodded my head, and she went on as if she were talking to herself. "And I lost my son, or rather he ran away from me. I'm not a very good mother, I know, but I can't help it. He's about your age and even looks a bit like you. He's a nice boy, but I don't deserve him, so I'm not looking for him. Wherever he is, he's better off there than with me," she said, as if exhaling, and I noticed the tears in her eyes. Her words made me uneasy, and I had no idea how to react. And then we arrived, and I got out of the elevator, and my mom said, "If you see him, tell him I'm sorry," she concluded, as if she knew it was me. I paused for a moment, then continued down the hall. I told Mrs. Friendly about it, and she smiled and asked if I wanted to visit my mother, but I said no. If I hadn't gone missing, she wouldn't have said those words. Even though I felt sorry for her too, I couldn't find the strength to forgive her, nor did she ask for it. We'd been neighbors for a couple of years now, and I'd continued to grow, study, and take care of Mrs. Friendly. I made friends and my life changed, and then I learned the sad news. There was an ambulance at the entrance. I thought it was for us and was very scared, and then I found out that she had come to my mother. I ran into the apartment for the first time in so many years. It was terrible. Dirty, dusty, there was a terrible smell, and my mother was lying on the floor. She was barely breathing. I pushed the doctors aside and ran to her. I wanted to cry. I was afraid. My hands were shaking and I wanted to cry. I asked, "What's wrong with you?" And my mother said, "Forgive me if you can," and closed her eyes. My mother left me a letter that said, "I know it's you, and I was happy to see you living next to me and doing well. I'm sorry. I love you. I'll leave the apartment to you and Mrs. Friendly. Mom." I read the letter right after her funeral. She died of an overdose. Most of all, I was uneasy at the thought that she knew it was me and did not even try to return it. She just let me go. Maybe she's not such a bad mother after all, do you think? I've forgiven her, and they don't hold grudges against the dead. But I'm sorry too.